What's up, everybody? I got Mr. Ace Von Johnson from LA Guns with me here tonight. What's up, Ace? How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Man, just still riding out this apocalypse, waiting for them to tell us it's safe to go back to play music for everybody. So it's
Right,
about the
right.
same boat everybody else has been in for the last year now. So there's light
Yeah,
at the end of
same.
the tunnel. So that's a good thing.
Good, good. Yeah, I feel you on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are you up to right now at the moment?
Uh, a little bit of everything. I'm in the middle of recording some stuff for the next LA Guns record.
Okay.
We're doing remotely, more or less, just because of everybody's location combined with COVID. So I've just been recording at home and sending stuff back and forth between the producer and Tracy. And literally, maybe 10 minutes before we got on the phone here, I was just reviewing some stuff that I did yesterday and sending that out. And then I do a little bit of voiceover work on the side as well. So I've
Wow.
been
Okay.
sort of bouncing between a couple projects there, and looking for more stuff in that field. And then what else? Just kind of weathering the storm like a lot of people. And I have a I have a Patreon as well, so I spend a good amount of time each week sort of creating content for that. And because just it's a subscription platform, so trying to keep everybody kind of entertained and interested, and bring them into my little circle and see what I'm up to, and then hanging with my dog, and that's kind of it. Not I think anyone that says that they're really really up to all this exciting stuff right now is probably full of shit. But
Yeah,
staying
you
busy.
you can find ways to stay busy, but like we were talking about before we started, we're all really been up to the same thing for the last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can get into during the pandemic, and the more the better. And I'm not criticizing anyone who is really busy. I'm just saying everyone touching base, going, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Nothing. The same thing you're up to. Nothing. Sitting around waiting for the other shoe to drop." But
Yeah,
staying busy, everything's good as it could be, and just hanging with my dog as much as possible and trying to enjoy my perpetual time off, really, if you will. Uh,
nice.
Gardening, planting things. I just bought some potted plants like 3 hours ago. I don't know who I am
Oh
anymore.
wow. Okay, I was gonna say this interview's going in a whole different direction than what I was
Yeah,
expecting.
yeah, it does that sometimes, unfortunately.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I like to throw people for a change of pace, I guess.
Hey, no, that's perfect, man. Perfect. So you just said that you're working on some of the stuff for the new LA Guns record.
Yes, sir.
One thing that I wanted to ask you about pertaining to this is, are you helping with the songwriting at all during this, or is it more of just Tracy and Phil are hammering it out, and you're coming in afterwards and sticking your guitars on? What's going on with this?
No, no, a little bit of both, actually. I submitted 2 or 3 songs. I can't recall the answer to that myself. And I have gone back and worked on one of my songs. Let me start over. I can confirm that one of my songs is on the album.
That's great.
Beyond that, I don't have an answer, and maybe I'm not supposed to say, or maybe I just don't know for a good reason. But uh, definitely one of my tracks is on the record, and then there is a sort of goalpost on when we're trying to get this done by and when it needs to be out, etc. So, which is still a little bit of ways away. So we're kind of just chipping away the stone here. And if it circled back around and someone said, "Hey, we're using that other song or whatever songs or whatever," I would be like, "Cool." And if they don't, then cool. And so, but I did just, speaking of that, I did just redo some little tiny tidbit on one of my songs at about 4 a.m. this morning. So
Nice.
I can confirm one of the songs is mine. And then I'm just getting sent stuff every 3 to 5 days, here's a song, here's two songs, here's this, can you redo that or whatever, and going from there. But it definitely sounds like LA Guns. If you liked, um, The Missing Piece and the first three records, then you should like this one.
Nice. Yeah, all good
Yeah.
stuff.
And it is Phil Lewis and Tracy Guns, so it admittedly should sound like what the people anticipate the band to sound like. You know.
Absolutely. So you came into the band shortly after they had just finished recording "The Devil You Know," if I'm correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I didn't mean to step on you like that.
No, I want to hear what you were going to say. Please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there's occasionally some misconception because I'm pictured and credited on "The Devil You Know." I think as sort of a nicety or a tip of the hat, because I had just joined the band and become like a member.
Yeah,
Not
you
just
had
like,
been in the band for it was like 9 months whenever the record
yeah, I
came
was going to
out.
say maybe 6 or 8 months. Yeah, I can't remember the exact time frame, but it's long enough to where it had been discussed that I was in the band and a member, wasn't just doing a tour or filling in or anything like that. And as you said, the record was recorded sometime before I joined, so it wasn't. I had politely requested. I think I said, if there's something that isn't done, whether it's a song or three, let me just, even if it's just, I think I joked. I was like, let me just hit an A chord or something so I could just say I'm on that little microcosm of the record. But it didn't work out like that, and it was already, I think, mastered and mixed and done. So it was what it was. But we did do the photo shoot for the record and put my name and face on it. So that's one of those things where it becomes like down the line where people, they're like, do I ask you to sign this record even though you're pictured on it, but you didn't perform on it, but were you? And so, yeah, so the first formal thing that I recorded with LA Guns was actually the Another Christmas in Hell EP that we did about a year and 3 or 4 months, the end of 19, just sort of as a fun little thing. It's kind of like a callback to the Cuts EP that they did in like 93, 94, where it was just like all covers and here's an EP and we just wanted to have some fun and just throw something out there, and everybody got to pick a song respectfully, and it was all Christmas holiday theme songs. I actually picked a song from, I don't think you can see the shirt, but I'm wearing a shirt from The Damned.
Oh, nice.
And I picked a Damned song called "There Ain't No Sanity Clause," and that was fun to do. And yeah, so blah blah blah. LA Guns, my first formal full length with the band. Yeah.
Well, cool. One thing I wanted to ask you about is how that gig came about, because you were playing with Faster Pussycat at the time, and then it was announced that you were going to be playing some shows with LA Guns. So I want to know exactly how this gig came about for you.
Uh, pretty much like you'd expect. They had in various forms approached me, and I've told this story maybe publicly, maybe 3 or 4 times now, this element of it, where I don't think at this point it's any secret or anyone's shocked that I, whatever. But they had asked me to join the band over the course of, a couple, I'm trying to think, at least 9 months.
Okay.
And at probably, I'm going to say 3, give or take 1, intervals, different points in time. And it just didn't work out where I didn't want to, they were letting someone go. And I knew about that beforehand from pretty much every person involved, from people in the band to out of the band. And I don't want to get into that too much, but I knew about it. And respectfully, I declined because I had some sort of a loose friendship with said person. And so I just said, I don't want to be the guy that takes that person's job and whatever. And it just wasn't the right opportunity. And then now I'm trying to think what I'm saying that blabbermouth will turn into some things
That's cool.
that
They don't know about me. You can say whatever you
come after me. Ace Von Johnson says this guy farts in his sleep or something like that. They'll turn anything into garbage. And
dude.
I
It
don't
was
mean to just pick on Blabbermouth. I mean anybody.
dude. It's they're all like TMZ nowadays, man. And the worst part is going on the comment sections of those things. It's
I don't go on them. I don't give a shit. And here's where they can quote me. 96% of the people in those comment sections haven't done shit with their lives. Quote me. Haven't done shit with their lives. And people like you and people like me and the guys, all our buddies we were talking about before we started this, those are guys that do stuff. And people on the comment section can poo-poo on us all day long. But we're still the ones that get to do all the cool shit while they, you know, I'm not going to even, I was going to say flip burgers, but then someone will be like, oh, what do you got a problem with somebody who flips burgers for a living? No, but I'm just saying whatever they do that makes them so angry that they want to talk shit about people like us is why they're miserable and we get to do cool shit. I digress. Let me get off my tiny little high horse
it's all
here.
fun and games. So
Yeah, man. I mean, I know this is being recorded, but at this point in my career, if I had the time to read all the comment sections of shit I've heard about myself on the internet, then I would be just as apt to sit around and be miserable as those types of people. But I'm not, and I don't care.
it's a
And
dark hole to go down. Yes,
it's
so
such a dark
it's
hole.
best
And
to just stay away from it.
yeah,
But
man, I try to avoid all those rabbit holes of it's just toxic bullshit. And
occasionally I'll just find myself, clicking on those comments under any of those blabbermouth posts, and it's weird because blabbermouth will use the worst picture of you to put on there.
that's
And
intentional.
yeah,
It's
yeah, of
intentional.
course it is, because it catches your eye when you're scrolling and you see a picture of David Lee Roth out of makeup or something like that.
Yeah, it's meant to harangue the artists. It's all just some strange form of bullying in a sense. And I will, if like I said earlier before we started, if I could not have social media or any of that shit, I would. And I don't care. I don't care what Jimmy in Sheboygan or Steve in Duluth has to say about what I do or don't do, or their gossip rag. What was it? Comment section, message
Yeah,
board. I don't care.
whatever you want to refer to it as.
For me, I just want to play my guitar, hang out with my friends, watch scary movies, and save some dogs, and kind of keep it at that. So, anyhow, if it makes them happy to talk shit on whoever on the internet, all the best to them. But and then that's going to conclude that TED talk. But the getting the guns gig. So now I'm way off the reservation here. So so they called me and I just couldn't do it, or I didn't want to upset anybody, or blah blah blah. And finally someone called me from the camp and said, hey, we're in another bind again and we need someone again, and just first right of refusal. And I just said, you know what? I can make that work. Why don't we sort of try it on for size? And if, I don't want to commit to anything, but you guys have this 2-week tour or 10-day tour, whatever little run, and I'm available and you need someone, so I'll do it. And if both parties are into it, then we'll go from there. We'll reassess. And so I did the run, and I had a great time, and everyone was just so awesome. I actually found a photo of Phil Lewis and I from that tour about 3 or 4 days ago. And we'd gone through 2 bottles of wine, and we're like, it's like one of those drunken selfies. And I was like, man, we were having such a good time. And Johnny Martin, the bass player, and I go back about 15 years. So we've got a long rapport. And I pulled him aside after sound check towards the end of the run. And I said, hey, is this how it always is? And he goes, what always is? I said, is it always this just chill and professional and fun? And he's like, yeah, this is how this gig is. And I was like, okay, got it. And so we got home, and they said, the next tour starts this date. Are you going to stick around? And I said, yeah. And that was kind of it. And I was fortunate enough to do double duty between Pussycat and LA Guns for roughly a year. Before I kind of was, obviously, as you would expect, forced to kind of pick one or the other. And after spending near 10 years in Pussycat, I just opted to go with the LA Guns of the two. And it wasn't anything against Tammy or Pussycat. It just was, a lot of it was logistical. And like anything in anyone's career where you got to like, well, you took a new job. Are you happier there? Are you getting treated maybe differently? Are you, what are the things? And I saw a small amount of backlash from people, like a couple diehard Pussycat fans that were like mad at me and, Tracy this and the guy's that, and you're going to get fired or quit or spinal tap implode into a green globule and a rise throne. And I've been here now for 2.5 years, which isn't all that long of a period of time considering we've been, is it 2.5? Something like that. A couple years, considering we're not touring for the last year now because of COVID, obviously, but I'm not going anywhere. And I don't think anyone else thinks I'm going anywhere unless I get, piano drops on my head or something. So it's been really great. And I'm really humbled and kind of honored and sort of stoked to be a part of not just one legendary sort of Sunset Strip LA rock and roll band with Pussycat, but then now two with with LA Guns.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Two bands that
and
are synonymous with the Strip, so you hit the lottery with that for sure.
Yeah, and I talk to Tammy at least once a week, and I've gone over and recorded and recorded stuff with him as recently as maybe December.
Okay.
So
That was one thing I was going to ask about is if you and Tammy were still, in contact now that you.
oh, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. It's two things, but one or factors. One, his sobriety, and two, I don't know if it's just because I'm no longer in the band or if he's just had a change in how he approaches things or what. But I will say this: my relationship with Tammy over the last 2 years has been infinitely greater than it ever was prior to uh, that. Now, again, I don't know if that's because I'm not an active member of the band, or if because he's sober, or one or the other, or both, or it could be something completely different. I'm sure with COVID as well. I think he's just happy to kind of know who his true friends are and whatnot. And I love Tammy very much. And I'm glad he kind of took care of himself when his health was challenging him and really powered through with the sobriety thing. And I have a ton of friends that are sober people. I'm not. I know it looks like I'm drinking out of cocktail glasses of just water, but I also don't really rage like I did when I was younger, like probably Tammy did when he was younger, or like Ricky did when he was younger, or Tracy did when he was younger. And so it just, you get older and wiser and all that nonsense that comes with, everybody, the sort of trivial, older statesman turn, when I was your age, I used to be alcoholic and crazy. But, I love him, and I'm stoked that he's putting out new music sooner than later. And I'm stoked that more so in a sense that I'm a part of it. So I don't know. I think it's public knowledge now, but there's going to be a single from him soon this year. I've seen the artwork for it. It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I just talked to Chad the other night, and I asked him about it, and he said that things were going along pretty smoothly with it, and that's about the only update that they're kind of giving out of that camp right now. But definitely looking forward to hearing some new music, because as you know, you talked about it on Chuck Shoot's podcast the other day, where
that was a good one. I like Chuck.
That was a good one. I didn't listen to it. I read the transcript of a lot of it, but
I saw something from that because someone quoted me in something.
It was I think it was Sleaze Rocks. I think it was Sleaze Rocks that I read. But I was able to comprehend
decipher.
I was able to decipher the message that they was trying to get across. But
yeah, I don't know what kind of program they use to just sort of auto
I think
transcript it.
A lot of what it was, there was like no spacing and like indentions in the paragraph, and like I don't know, the colors were like very hard on the eyes, so it was a little weird. Not just in Sleaze Rocks. They've ran my stuff before for Minefield, so thank you, Sleaze Rocks, for all that. But it was a little hard on the eyes. That one was.
Understood. Yeah, I saw it because someone sent it to me, and I clicked on it, and it had a quote, and I remember being like, "That's not what I said." And then I'm looking at it, going, "Oh, this is all." Like if I said, "Oh, it's a really nice day today," and it transcribed it as like, "It's a really nice hay." Okay. And I was like, huh? But whatever. Yeah, Sleaze Rocks is great. I don't have a problem with Blabbermouth. I don't have a problem with any of the sites because they all, and Metal Sludge, any of them, they all serve a purpose.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
Personally, my rant earlier is how I feel as a human being with my own opinion on all the message board comment threads, because it's seldom, if I'm being nice, 70-30, it's just hate. It's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
vitriol and just anger, and that's why I don't pay any attention to it, because even if someone hates my album or hates me being in whatever band, or doesn't like that I cut my hair, I don't care. So
Yeah, I didn't even
uh
know about the hair until you clicked on to the Zoom meeting. So
yeah, I cut my hair off twice. I cut it all off right when COVID became, and I mean it's like long, and I mean whatever, long enough, but I mean when COVID started, I was like, I'm not touring for the next 6 months. I'm gonna take half. Like, your hair's long. My hair's usually just sort of like shoulder length or whatever.
actually, I
But
think it was yesterday made the 4 year anniversary the last time I buzzed all my hair off. So, I'm afraid to
nice.
do it again. I don't think it's going to come back next time.
I understand that. I understand that. I just never. I mean, I feel like I'm in these types of bands where I'm supposed to have a certain look, but
Absolutely.
if I don't have to tour for the next 12 months, why? It's like people are like, why do you have that beard? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? I don't give a like. Who am I trying? I'm not doing a photo shoot tomorrow. Who am I trying to impress?
It's funny because I've heard other people say that. I had when I first started this, one of my first interviews was Brent Muscat,
Yeah,
and when he came on here, he had just cut all his hair off, and he said the same thing. He's like, man, he's like, just sitting at home. He's like, normally I'd have all this stuff done, my hair colored and everything. He's like, I'm sitting at home, fuck it, basically.
yeah. I mean, it's no offense to anyone, but I mean, if I don't have to get on stage or look a certain way, it's like, hey, you're not going into the office today. It's Sunday. How come you're not wearing your on your work attire? You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
I can't wait till we're all back out on the road and everybody's like, why did every single musician gain like 30 pounds? Like,
oh, that's
hey,
definitely happening.
speaking of which, I had a fan question, we'll call it, for you
Sure.
while we're on the subject of gaining COVID weight. Big super fan Paul Gorgano had a question for you about what is your trick to when you put on a little weight to getting your shirts to go on right?
Uh, um, I I uh some it depends on the shirt. If the shirt, if you put on a little bit of weight and your shirt is feeling snug, because I'm slowly admitting that I'm no longer a small t-shirt and I'm now a medium, to my chagrin, uh, I will either uh, like run like you're putting deodorant on, like put my arm up in my shirt and sort of press down the side, gives it a little stretch in there. But more often than not, if I know it's kind of a snug shirt, I'm giving you an honest answer, of course.
Hey, I'm laughing because this is hitting close to home. I do all this same shit. Like,
I'll take the shirt and I'll like flap it like you would a towel or a rug, and that'll usually kind of stretch it out a little bit. And I have some vintage shirts that fit me good when I was 20, and now that I'm 38, I'm like, oh, how can I gain just a little bit out of the shirt? And what I'll do is I'll wash them and then take them out of the washer still damp and flap them out. And I've gotten some small t-shirts, like super small, that fit differently. You just put them on a hanger, let them hang dry, and you get a couple inches out of them in every
that's what they
direction.
were saying, is that you would get them wet and then you'll stretch them out.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
I was
It
telling them what I
works.
did. What I'll do is I'll sit down on the couch, stretch it over my knees down to my fucking cankles, and just like wiggle around, and it'll stretch out enough. So, whatever gets the job done. But that was one thing I was meaning to ask you about. So it
Yeah,
was.
I mean, some people just go, I'm too stubborn. I'm like, I refuse. I probably have maybe 7 medium shirts, and everything else I own is a small. And admittedly, while I've put on a little bit of weight during COVID, I still exercise here, a couple days a week. And so it's okay. But I mean, I remember when I was at my thinnest or most in shape about a year ago, I'd put on a small shirt and I'd be like, oh, it fits all nice in the arms, right? And now it's loose in the stomach because I lost all this weight. My belts were all cinched to the last hole. And then now I just went back to where they were 2 years ago, where everything just sort of fits normal.
And you got to
So,
make your own holes on the belt and everything.
yeah, I mean, as long as it's getting smaller, it's fine.
Perfect. So I know we talked about you playing in both camps for a minute, and now that your relationship with Tammy has kind of changed now that he's sober, and they're able to work on some new music nowadays. What would you really say are the biggest differences between being in a band like Faster Pussycat and LA Guns, and working with a guy like Tammy versus working with like Phil or Tracy?
Uh, well, Faster Pussycat is pardon the pun, but is very fast and loose, and and Tammy may make a decision today, and it may change tomorrow 3 times, and so one of the things that I'm trying to take a sort of diplomatic approach here. One of the things about Pussycat versus LA Guns is Pussycat was everything was done in house. Not, I would say the last maybe 5 years I was in the band, not a single business decision went on in Faster Pussycat that didn't more or less go through either Chad Stewart or myself first before going to Tammy and then sort of relaying back and forth. And so we sort of collectively steered the ship. And and there were elements of that that I loved, and there were elements of that that I did not love. And with LA Guns, it's more of it's a business entity almost. And I don't mean the band itself, but I mean like we have a manager and a publicist and a there are adults, you know what I mean? Like I could call someone and be like, yeah, I have can you, what is the, and when is the, and how? And someone will, send me like a formalized email back. And so that's the biggest difference, I would say. On paper, I think maybe as a fan, a lot of people may equate them as sort of being the same in a lot of respects, but they're very, very, having been involved in both of them heavily now, they're both two completely different animals. Um, and I respect them both for what they are, and especially Tammy and Tracy and Phil. And I'm just sort of, I just all at the end of the day, I'm grateful that these guys are still playing music and alive and healthy and are my friends, and I get to work with them and whatever else. And that's kind of that's what again, like the my tangent earlier. So that's what I take away from it. And uh, I think if Tracy chooses to do his thing this way and Tammy chooses that way, and this guy this whatever works best for them, and it's not my place to criticize what any of them do or don't do or how they do it, or how they fold their fucking long johns or whatever it is. And my opinion is strictly that. It's just mine, and it's just, it carries as much weight as the guy on Blabbermouth, aside from the fact that I'm in said band. But there are to answer that question fully would take hours, because it's there's so many different little bullet points.
Well, we got the tape rolling, man. Go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a lasagna in the oven, so
yeah. Oh, nice. Those things take like 3 days to cook anyway.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know how to make lasagna, but I wish I did. That sounds delicious right now.
That does. I think you've just figured out what I'm going to do after this episode.
I actually think I'm going to Postmates me a lasagna.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, cool. So, man, coming into a band like LA Guns, how easy was it for you to kind of find your little pocket, your spot in the band, so to say, with such an iconic duo like Tracy and Phil being in the band? Because you went from a situation where you were the lead guitarist and then took a gig as a rhythm guitarist, which most lead guitarists would be like, what are you, fucking crazy? Yeah. You're going back down below the 12th fret. So what was really your mindset going into this whenever you were really going to find your spot in the band?
Well, I'll start by saying I wish I was the guitar player that I am now 7, 8, 10 years ago when I started with Pussycat. And I will be forthright in the sense that, I've never had a lesson. I don't know music theory. I can't sweep arpeggiate, and nor would I really want to. I guess I can a little bit, but I don't want to. And I when I joined Pussycat, I already what I love about not just Pussycat because it applies to both, but in this instance with Pussycat is that there's so much of a punk rock undercurrent within the music, and especially that first Faster album. I do genuinely believe if they all had short hair or mohawks on the first Pussycat album, it would have just been a punk band. And you know, City Has No Heart and Don't Change That Song and Bathroom Wall. I mean, those are kind of punk rock songs, and somewhere between the New York Dolls and some Stooges, or maybe it's more elements of proto punk and glam, but still, for all intents and purposes, it's got a punk vibe, and there's no Vito Brava on the first Pussycat album as far as guitar playing skill goes. And so when I came into Pussycat, I felt like my skill set was basically on par with that. And after doing it for a lifetime, I got better and I was learning and trying to get outside the box. And I'll, be the first to tell you that I can play really great when I'm creating my own product. And if you hear any session stuff I do, or like the Neon Coven album or anything like that, I can play great over here. But being forced to sort of emulate someone else's parts, whether it's Muscat or Greg Steele or someone who guested on the Power and the Glory Hole album or whatever, these different people, it got a little, like how much of playing someone else's stuff can I really do for so long before it becoming kind of, a little arduous. And Pussycat, I was the lead guitar player, every single part. And the rhythm guitar player in Pussycat is solely the rhythm guitar player. And, even some of the sort of second guitar lines and parts, he was not doing, or it wasn't there. And so after 9-10 years of having to kind of do all of the heavy lifting, it was a welcome opportunity to kind of sit in the back seat, if you will. And Tracy and I do some harmony stuff, and I get like a featured solo some of the time. And I know there's a couple songs where there's like a outro solo, or Over the Edge, we do this cool harmony solo thing. So I get about kind of like my fair share of my yayas out in an average LA Guns set, to where I'm okay stepping down a little bit and just being the rhythm guy, because I never really wanted to be the lead guitar player of any band. What I would like to be is the guitar player, and if there's two of us, then we should both be, in Guns it's a different story, because Tracy's an absolute legend, and so that's his band, his namesake, his legacy. And so I have at no point am I like, well, when am I going to be taking that's absurd. And so that's fine. But like, if Jeremy Asbrock and I are going to start a band, it should be like 60-40 or 70-30 or whatever, because we're both competent, skilled players. And if we're creating something, there's no reason he can't do this main solo and then I'll take an outro thing, or I'm going to do this intro melody line and he'll do the harmony, or whatever, because we can give and take. But I was happy to just kind of dial it back a little bit. And to be honest, a lot of the rhythm parts, they're not hard, but some of them, depending on the song, are involved. And I'm not going to compare it to the stuff with Guns N' Roses, but I always noticed that when over the years, whether I'm backing up Gilby Clarke, or I should say jamming with Gilby Clarke, or playing with Steven Adler, or just doing a jam with some friends, if I'm playing Guns N' Roses songs, I've found, because I'm usually given the Izzy parts, I found that the Izzy parts, rhythm-wise, are harder than Slash's, and then Slash just gets the solos.
Oh, absolutely, man. Dude, Izzy's parts and all those songs are so underrated. So you can't see it because all the lights I've got right here, but I've got a GNR tribute that plays out pretty frequently. Actually, next weekend in Louisville, Kentucky, Jeremy and Phil are filling in with my GNR tribute. So
that's rad.
But so, talking about these guitar parts on like the Appetite for Destruction stuff, dude, Izzy's stuff is so underrated, man. And I forget who the quote is attributed to, but talking about Izzy's playing, that said, if Izzy Stradlin was in any other band, he would have been the lead guitarist of that band.
Yeah.
You go listen to songs like Rocket Queen, that
Yep.
verse,
Oh,
that's all Izzy in the background doing all
yeah.
that.
That's a great example. And so I try to take that approach to a lot of the gun stuff, where if it's the if it's maybe something from the first two or three albums, I try to, and I did this with Pussycat. I try to usually keep it about 80% true to form, and really kind of listen in and go, what was Mick doing in here, and or whatever the project is, what was Izzy doing here, whatever my role is. And then if it's something newer, where maybe no one has some sort of set idea of what the rhythm is doing. A perfect example, there's a song off the last record called Gone Honey, and the rhythm track is just chords. It's just kind of meat and potatoes and boring. And so when we play it live, I said, well, fuck that. I don't want to just play A and C and D and F and G. Fuck that. And so I said, well, what if I just what if I do a flat fifth here, and I do a this, and I do an octave, and I do just if I follow the bass line, or I harmonize with what Tracy's doing or something like that. And usually no one ever says anything, but against it, what will happen is on stage, one of Tracy or Phil, they'll get this and they'll be like, okay, they're like, oh, I heard a thing I liked. What was that? And sometimes earlier on, not anymore, but like the first tour I did with Guns, Phil a couple times came over and he goes, I don't know what you just did right there, mate, but I loved it. And I was like, okay.
Hell of a
So
compliment, yeah.
yeah, I don't want to say make it my own, because I don't want to take too much artistic liberties with the classic stuff. But if there's any room for me to do something like that, I will, especially like I said, with the newer stuff where maybe no one is picking through it, looking for some specific part that they've heard for 30 years or whatever. So I think I got way off the question there, but
No, that was fine. That was perfect. So you talked a little bit about playing with Steven Adler. Talk to me about that, if you can.
yeah, I was never a formal member of Adler, but the band, but any chance that I had to get up and play 2, 3, 4, 5 songs with them, I did. And so Steven is arguably one of the sweetest, legitimate rock stars you could ever meet. He's just a really kind, gentle soul, and he still has that sort of laid back. I mean, I can only think of maybe one or two drummers I've ever played with that ever played those songs the way they were supposed to. Obviously, aside from him, and and he's just got this great swing, this kind of, I don't know I'm not a drummer, so I don't know the right terminology, but this sort of laid back. I mean, he hits like a son of a bitch, but I mean, just I don't know what it is, but there's some technical term for drum stuff that I don't
Whatever
know.
Adler's feel is what it is. That's that.
Exactly. His
And
feel is perfect. And that goes well beyond just his range of Guns N' Roses stuff. Cause I've been on stage with him for a few, for a few covers that weren't just his songs as well. Anyhow, I'm getting off topic. So, they had me come down and audition as a second guitar player for the band Adler, and it never came to fruition. They actually never formally hired another guitar player, and it was before, I don't know what year that would have been, 2012 maybe. It was just before I became really good friends with Jacob Bunton, who's the
yeah,
singer
the
of
singer.
Adler, and then he's sung for, it's not out yet, but I can say I've heard it, the Mick Mars solo album. And then he and I are also in a band called Neon Coven together, and which is sort of like Depeche Mode meets Nine Inch Nails or something like that, with some Kaja Gugu and Ministry involved. It's all over the place. It's an electronic rock band though.
Nice.
But Jacob is one of my closest friends in the fucking world, and I'd take a bullet for that guy, and he's very talented. But before I knew him as well as I do now, I was basically told that, it was up to him, but he wasn't at the audition and blah, blah, blah. And it didn't work out. But moving forward, he and I became really good friends. And then Steven and I started doing, all these jams and Rock Against MS Foundation performances together and stuff. And so we would do festivals and shows together and whatever it was, whether it was Pussycat or whoever else. And he would always say, why don't you come up and play a couple songs? Or Jacob would say, hey, I'm going to tell Steven we're going to have you come up. And we did M3. Pussycat did it a few years ago. And then right after us was Adler. And the last, I think, 2 songs, I ran out there and Jacob threw me his guitar and I just did my best Izzy Stradlin all over the stage. And we had a good time. And Steven and I have played together a bunch of times. And I can't remember what for, just a lot of jams and benefit shows. And we did a thing, we did a ride for Ronnie, that's what it was. And with Lita Ford and Michael from Whitesnake and Robert Sarzo, and we did a few songs for that a couple years ago. That was a blast.
Was that 2018? Whenever that happened?
That sounds right. And we did a few songs for that, and that was a really good time. And watching watching Lita Ford's lyric sheet blow away in the wind and her try to scat her way through a Guns N' Roses song is something I'll never forget. But it was fun nonetheless, and for a great cause. Right for Ronnie, Wendy, Dio. I love her to death. Getting way off topic here, but yeah, just Steven is a great person and always a really cool experience getting to jam with him. And his birthday was a couple weeks. I just talked to him for his birthday, and yeah. So yes, Steven Adler, love him to death. Great drummer, great guy.
Absolutely. So while we're on the topic of, just name dropping, let's go ahead and drop another name real quick.
I do it.
Mr. Sam Bam. Let's talk about him for a second. I've got him coming on tomorrow night. So for anybody that doesn't know, Sam Bam was your replacement in Faster Pussycat. And
yes.
If I'm correct, you're the one that suggested him for the gig, right?
Yeah. Sam is what I affectionately call, and he may disagree and he'd be inclined to, but I just refer to him as almost as my protege, just because he's been kind of around in my peripheral since he was a teenager. And at a few points in time, I would kind of pull him aside and be like, hey, that's a bad idea, or you're doing a great job here, or keep doing this or whatever. And just more big brother stuff. It's not about guitar playing prowess, because he's infinitely better of a skilled musician than I'll ever be. And like I said, I've never taken any lessons or anything, and he's gone the whole gamut through Musicians Institute and came out on top. And he's, he records a lot of the stuff. He's basically my go-to producer and engineer and, confidant, et cetera, et cetera. So by no means is that a slight, but the protege thing. But when I knew that I needed to put someone in that position, he was only one of 2 people I was considering, and he's done a great job. And I knew that I needed to pick someone that would, basically the easiest way to say it is someone that would make me look bad, because most people, not all people, but a lot of people in that position would pick someone that would make them look good. You know what I mean? Like, if I hire you to do my job and you do a subpar job, then I'm going to get my job back, And so I wanted to get someone that looked cool, was cool, would get along with everybody, and could play his dick off. And that's Sam Bam. And so, he's got a bunch of stuff he's working on. I'll let him tell you all about it on his episode, but he's doing great. And I have no doubt that in the when we're able to be musicians again, that sooner than later, he will be very successful and famous, and I'll be calling him, hey bro, can you get me, I saw you're in Alice in Chains now, man, can I come to the show? So you heard it here first. When he joins Metallica or Iron Maiden or something like that, we saw it coming.
Yeah, he's got a new project with Alex Kane and Johnny Martin, the Have and the Have-Nots that they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got Alex coming on Sunday, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that and
If you
everything
knew
else.
how many group text threads I'm in with both of them in like different in variations and whatever, you'd be shocked. But yeah, those are I talk to the two of them daily, if you will, and
Alex Kane is great. I was just texting him maybe 5 minutes before we started this.
I equally love Alex like I do Sam, except it's Alex is like my older brother. He's
that's
also a great player.
that's great. So, little correlation while we're still dropping names.
Sure.
Another mutual friend with Alex Kane is Mr. Jeremy Asbrock. I want to know how you met Jeremy and what your relationship with him was like.
How did I meet Jeremy? Um, Jeremy, Phil Schaus, and I think I met Ryan later, but Jeremy and Phil, they're like a package duo. And so I met them rock and roll residency related, I think, just coming to Nashville frequently. And then they were on one of the Monsters of Rock cruises at some point, and we just struck up a friendship. And I would say, maybe for the last 5 years solid, or we're pretty close, especially Jeremy and I. And it's his birthday coming up, by the way, next week. And so, and yeah, so I don't really know. I'm sure there's some specific instance where I met him and we hit it off, but I don't remember what that is anymore.
Well, I saw Jeremy make a post here a week or two ago about recording some guitar parts for you. What was that for? Can you give us some details on that?
Yeah, that was some LA Gun stuff, and I had ordered uh, some stuff to do some home recording, and it was sort of half assembled and half in transit. So I had a song that needed to be finished basically yesterday, and I had half of a studio. And so I said, I need someone to come over and facilitate this immediately, and he was available, and that's how that happened.
Nice. Very cool. Jeremy's an awesome guy.
Very, yeah.
Cool. So really what's coming up in the near future for Ace Vaughn Johnson right now?
Uh, I don't know. There's been a lot of things I've recorded on over the last 12 months that have not seen the light of day yet, presumably due to COVID. And so I think things that I have done or am doing will slowly continue to trickle out. As far as sooner than later, I think you'll have a new LA Guns album, I would assume by summer. Uh, and what else? The Neon Coven album, Future Postponed, came out in just I think Halloween, so that's only about three months old. And one of the singles, "Dead to Me," is still making some headway on the. It's actually getting a lot of terrestrial play, so it's doing well on the charts, which is a weird thing to say. And that's my song, one of the three songs I co-wrote for the record, or in that instance, pretty much is my song. And then I don't know. A lot of stuff I projects I'll complete, I'll turn it in, I'll hand it over to someone else, and then I forget about it until someone calls me and says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this thing you did." And I go, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." I'm working on a friend of mine has I guess you consider it EDM. It's electronic music, and he wants a song with some guitar stuff, but not traditional. Um, he was like, "I don't want rock. I don't want solo." He goes, "I want um, ethereal and whatever." And so I've started working on that this week, which has been not challenging, but sort of interesting for me because it's not really my forte as far as music goes.
Can you tell us who it is?
Um, I don't want to say yet because I don't. It's the artist.
Is it somebody I've had on the show that I've possibly talked to this about with?
I don't think
If
so.
I say it, will you be like, yeah? If I can say that it's been said on this show publicly?
Sure.
Okay, so I had Dan Hill from Enough's Enough on here, and he was talking about working on some EDM stuff. Is that who you're referring to?
No, no, no. I'll tell you off the air, but no,
Okay.
no, no, because it's a buddy of mine who's doing pretty well in a different industry,
Okay.
and his music, he's always been a musician. It's a guy I've known since I was a teenager, and so he's sort of circling back into his music career now that his day job is taking off, or whatever you want to call it. And he wants to collaborate, but because it's his project, it's not my place to announce. Do you know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yeah, I was
So
just, I know that you guys run around in the same camp, and I was, connected the dots here and him talk about that here recently as well.
yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I would love to work with him for sure, but that was definitely not it. And it's also, again, like it's totally not like I like everything. I have a very eclectic palette, but some of this sort of club EDM, solely electronic music, I kind of steer away from because if there isn't even someone singing or a drum kit or a guitar, I'm like, what? I just, and while I can't, knock people for, you can make an album solely on your laptop now. I mean, I'm in the middle of doing it myself, but I don't want to knock anybody for that. But there is something to be said about not having a tangible instrument on a song. So that's something I'm looking forward to, just because it's completely out of my wheelhouse. And then what else? I'm sure there's probably 4 or 5 other things I just can't I can't recall off the top of my head. And
but we're
then
just going to sit here until you can think of them.
I
No.
mean that could take some time, bro. And then just picking up a couple voiceover jobs here and there.
Now, I want to
I'll,
pause you real quick. You say
sure.
voiceover. What kind of voiceover work are you doing? Is this
uh,
like commercial? Is this animation? Or what are we talking about?
Ideally, I mean, if I had my choosing, I would be doing nothing but animation and more character driven stuff. Most of what I do predominantly is my speaking voice, and there are a few websites that I utilize, and then also I have some sort of like, as you'd imagine, like repeat clientele where they have projects and they go, hey, I need a 15-second clip for this thing, or I need this 45-second thing. And I was a spokesman for uh, a retirement insurance company. I did a bunch of their stuff. And it's just like, like if you're looking for a smooth riding car, try an Acura TS4. It'll get you there. That kind of
Great.
stuff, or whatever, and so I'm constantly trying to drum up more business with that, because while I'm at home, it's just something I can do. And it's also, in a sense, it's a form of creative output. And then also, I enjoy it. And then the animation thing is something I've been chasing for years. Don Jameson, Danny Nordahl from Faster Pussycat, and myself were shopping a animated series for about a year.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
a couple years ago, and I can't remember, unfortunately, what it was called. But we did a table read where we sort of run through the pilot, if you will, and I think there were maybe 12 characters, and I think I voiced 8 or 9 of them. So just for the pilot, so a lot of I'm constantly trying to drum up, I'm like, hey, are you working on an animated show? Because I would love to voice any of those characters. And there are so many people living in LA my whole life, and that I know that are in the industry. And I have a friend that's a producer for basically one of the largest animated studios in the world, like household name, that I talk to frequently, that I'm always like, hey man, you got anything for me? And that's sort of my goal, because I don't know when we'll all be able to tour again. And having been doing this for 20 years, I mean, I'm 38, and I did my first national tour at 19, and I started touring at 17. So I'm kind of tired, after 20 years. So when, like, last year, they're like, we're gonna have the year off, and everyone was like, oh my God, are you panicking? And I was like, fuck no. It's like, I get to sit at home for a year? Fuck yeah. Finally. So The voiceover stuff, I have, if you go, this is so douchebag, but if you go to my
Oh, go
website, if you
for
go to
it. No, man.
acevonjohnson.com, there's a pull down tab that says voiceover, and it's got my resume, a partial resume, and then my demos or reels or whatever you want to call them. There's like the narrative one that's just my speaking voice, like whatever, and then there's one that's for animation, and then people they go, which of the voices are you? And I said, oh, they're all me. Is the people talking to each other, are you all of them? And I said, all the voices, they're all me. And so yeah, so if anyone out there needs some voiceover work, shoot me an email.
Or you get your boy Adler to hook you up with a gig at the American Dad. Because, I've seen him post pictures of getting tours of the studio over there.
Yeah, and him and Craig Gass, famed comedian,
Yeah,
and,
Craig.
And Gene Simmons of Kiss, impersonator.
Craig's impersonations are just like the greatest fucking thing in the world,
I
man.
uh, I love Craig very, very much, and Craig is one of those guys. Uh, we'll get on the phone maybe once every other month and talk for a couple hours and just kind of catch up. And he's a great person, but also very, as you said, very, very talented with the voiceovers. And for his 50th birthday last year, I did a whole skit where I dressed up as Gene Simmons. And it's not public yet, but I'll share it with you personally. But it's
Well,
me.
here we go. Breaking news.
It's me dressed up as Gene Simmons. And I come out and I go, Craig, this is Gene Simmons from Kiss. And I want you to know that your impersonation of me is as tired as Tommy Thayer pretending to be Ace Frehley.
Oh my God.
And so I do this whole thing. And he got a kick out of that. And they did a roast. They roasted him with like an audience and all this shit in Hawaii, and they played it on this big screen. And I don't know how true this was, but he said that mine got the best response. So I'll take that little accolade. But yeah, so that's just stuff. That's kind of like my hobby that I'm trying to sway and swing into my main thing. Until being a musician is in vogue again, and I don't know when that'll be. Or I mean, if someone said, hey, the next 5 years are a wash, you could bet your ass that tomorrow I'm going to start putting my pedal to the metal regarding even more voice stuff, because I'm sort of treating it like something I'm doing, but I definitely could be more proactive. And this is me telling myself this, and should be more proactive, because I know I could churn out a ton of stuff more if I really started, picking up the phone, if you will. And, but I'm mostly relying on repeat customers, and, sort of like, I don't feel like doing it this month. And then there's also some nepotism. Like I've done some dubbing work for some Netflix shows. And so a friend of mine and whatever, director, producer, hey, we're casting for this thing. I thought of you. Do you want to come down? And then I walk in and he goes, you're hired. You just go and be, guy that gets killed number 4. And then also this, that, and the other thing. And so, like a lot of things in any industry, right place, right time, and who and blah, blah, blah. But I do like it. And it's a form of being creative, which I think is cool. And then that concludes my second TED Talk today.
Nice. Hey, so one last thing I really wanted to ask you about before we got out here. One of the gigs I lost due to COVID was actually opening up for you guys, LA Guns, in Detroit at the Diesel, which got rescheduled to this March. Unfortunately, I have since left the band that I was playing with, so I won't be there. But I've seen that the gig got rescheduled to March 27th, and the LA Guns has some stuff on the book for April. Are those dates happening?
To the best of my knowledge, emphasis there, no. I don't know when those will be formally postponed, canceled, performed. I don't know. But I'm under the impression that we're not doing anything anytime soon. Okay. So, I wish we could, but and this isn't directed towards you, but at least once every other day, someone's like, "Hey, I saw a show, and it's someone asked me about something like next week or something or something soon." Someone was like, "Hey, are you guys still playing the show on the 21st?" And you can't say this, but mentally, I'm like, did you not hear about the pandemic? Like, no. That doesn't mean I don't want to. Doesn't mean I wish we could, get back to work. Everybody wants to, but I mean, I haven't gone to see a fucking movie in a theater in 2 years. What do you mean asking about a concert? What are you, crazy? But there's another that'll be taken out of context. Ace Von Johnson attacks fans who inquire about tour dates. News at 11.
Well, I
But
appreciate you
no,
throwing me all these bones for the PR, man. This is great.
yeah, they're gonna love me. And you know what? I will say this: anyone that tries to spin things like that just for clickbait is an asshole. So
Yeah, but they don't need to be told that. They don't care because they're assholes.
nailed it. Um, and I frankly, I don't know about something in March. If you said April, May, if you said like May or June or July, I would say your guess is as good as mine. But I would imagine something that's as near as a month from now. And Tracy is still in Denmark with COVID as it is right now. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to be there. So unless someone calls me and says, no, we're still doing it, it would have to be the kind of thing where it was probably, a standalone show, or it was, they can only ticket it like we did in Vegas, where they can only sell 50 tickets and they did it digitally. But I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, no. So I'm sure that'll get taken out of context also, but who knows?
I don't think so. Like I said, Blabbermouth doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff, so you should be good. Well, cool, man. Before we get out of here, let everybody know where they can check all your stuff out online.
Well, I try to send people to my website because it's kind of got everything. So just acevonjohnson.com, but websites are kind of outdated. Socials, I'm not very active. I'm not a big fan of social media, but if you have Twitter or Instagram, which I don't use really anymore, mostly Twitter, it's just at Ace Von Johnson. And so if you really need me there, or if you need to get a hold of me, or you're interested in some voice stuff, or my Patreon or merchandise or anything like that, just that stuff is all on acevonjohnson.com.
Very cool. Well, dude, me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air, but man, thank you so much for coming on here and giving me a little bit of your time. And
Yeah,
I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. We'll be back here tomorrow night with his replacement in Faster Pussycat, Mr. Sam Bam. So
give him my love.
Yeah, if you got any questions to suggest for him, go ahead and shoot them my way.
I've got a few.
Perfect. Well, cool. Me and you will say goodbye off air, but thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and I'll see you here at 9 p.m. tomorrow.